No worries. All right. Thank you. All right. Wonderful. Everyone's so quiet. What's up with that?
We get loud.
You get loud?
We get loud.
It's like not as big as it.
What's up? How are you, Sarah?
Like I'm looking to shadow.
Yeah, and post on the internal page that you're looking to. Have you done that? Have you posted that you're wanting to?
Anything yet?
Okay.
So I can, get the.
Exactly right. We'll go ahead and get started. So, I was once told that if you start something late, that trains people to come late. So if you start on time, that trains people to come on time next time. So we'll go ahead and get started. Um, who doesn't know me? Probably most of y'all. I know Savannah. Um, Savannah and I sold her and her husband a home a couple of years ago. So that's how we know each other. And so she decided she thought it looked so easy um, that she decided to get a real estate license. No, I don't. Um, but for everyone that doesn't know me, my name is Mark Stewart. I'm a realtor here, obviously. Been here with Keller Williams I came here in July of 2015. That was my first. That was my date to move over. Previous to that, I was with another brokerage here in town with the blue sign, the blue color, and you can fill in the blank in the color. Um, and I knew at some point in my life that I wanted to do something where I could make professional income without being a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. So I found my way to real estate. Previous to real estate, I was a door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesperson. Did that for about 10 years, and then I was a fitness manager over at Ozark Fitness between 2001 and 2003. And I knew there was a better way of life because at Ozark Fitness, that was back in the day when I was working 9 to 9 shifts. And it was just a thankless job. So I'm like, man, I want to be one of those people that flip houses and make a bazillion dollars each year. And so I got out of Ozark Fitness to become one of those flipper people, and soon found out that flipping houses wasn't as easy as they portray it to be on television. Um, I did 3 of them, and I still have the second one because it was back in 2007 when the market crashed. I did a bank appraisal, did a construction loan that appraised at 140. I got my construction loan for like 90,000 and went to put it on the market. And by then the market had crashed. And so I'm like, this may not be the best way to make money. And so I just started selling houses. I did the traditional real estate thing. The thing that I noticed about the other brokerage I was at was, which when I look back on it now, it was like, man, why'd I do that? But I didn't know what to look for. I thought if you go to work for the biggest brokerage, hey, you're going to be successful. But they gave me a pat on the back and said, go get him, Tiger. And it was pretty much up to me to figure out how to do business. And I could take a long way around, but I'll keep it short. Uh, so I got really good with open houses. I got really good with people, and 2011, 12, and 13. By the time 2011, 12, and 13 rolled around, I started winning awards for working with buyers. And at that point, I mean, I was disconnected from the board. I didn't even know really what the board did, but I started getting these awards for being a buyer's agent. And so I was selling 23 to 25 houses a year and, making, 80, 90,000. And I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. I mean, to make more money. And so the models here at Keller Williams, they teach, I mean, you have the E to P, entrepreneurial to purposeful. And at some point or another, you will reach that ceiling of achievement. And how do you get through that ceiling of achievement? And that is to get better at what you do. And I started getting recruiting calls from our old TL, Chris Russell. He lives in Nixa and on the chamber, I believe, down in Nixa. He started calling me, but you know what? I had the goose that laid the golden egg over at Murney because over at the Blues Company, because I was working with an agent that did a lot of foreclosures, and so I was getting a bunch of leads, and I'm like, man, I'm not sure I'm ready to give this gig up because Chris was saying you got to lead generate and you got to do this, and I was like, man, what's this lead generation stuff? And because I just had people calling me, it was pretty nice, and it took a while. It took a couple of years for me really to decide to move over. I'm off of my year, so I came 2013, 14, and 15 is when I started winning awards for being a buyer's agent. And so it took about 2 years and about 15 or 16 meetings with Chris Russell for me to finally decide to Keller Williams, because back then it was almost like Keller who. I mean, it's like, they really had no market presence. But each time, and I share this with you guys, I'm taking you down this road for a reason, because the cool thing that I found out about Keller Williams was in the 15, 16 times I met with Chris Russell over 2 years, he never once asked me to join Keller Williams. He was always coming from contribution, pouring into my business, sharing with me how to make more money than what I was actually making. And I took a blind leap of faith, and I had 10 or 11 listings at the time when I transferred from Murney. And, I was scared to death that I was going to lose each and every one of those listings. And it was frightening for me to make these phone calls to all my clients. And when I called them, the first one said, Mark, the moral of the story is they all said, Mark, we did not hire Murney. We hired you because we like you. And so, all but 10 or 11 transferred. There was one Murney guy, or there was one guy that he just loved Murney, and the property never did sell. I mean, it just expired. So all in all, I moved over all my business that I had at the time to Keller Williams, and it's been the very best move that I've ever made in my life. Keller Williams is not only the best brokerage worldwide, but they have the best culture, they have the best training, they have the best models, they have the best systems, they have the best coaches. It's very hard. It's very hard to fail at real estate at Keller Williams, because everything is out there for you just to plug in. If you follow the models, you will be successful. The problem that a lot of agents have when they get into real estate, in my opinion, is they get a big fat commission check, and then they take the next day off or next week off or whatever, and they get into the roller coaster of ups and downs. You have closings, you don't have closings. What do you do? So we'll go through some of this as we go through today, but you really want to focus on your 20%. Does anyone know what your 20% as an agent is? Anybody? What makes up your 20%? Okay, let me say this. There's the 80-20 principle, Pareto's principle. Has everyone heard of that before? Okay, what is it? Absolutely.
And there's 80% of stuff.
That's exactly right. So our 20% as an agent is to, what's that?
Lead generation.
Absolutely. What's our second thing? Perfect. Two. Okay, perfect. Third one is? exactly right, Nicole Rice. Lead generate and follow up. 20% of your time will generate 80. Yes. So we have lead generate, lead follow up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and scripts and role play. If as an agent you are doing anything other than those things, you're costing yourself money and you leverage out. That's the beautiful thing about Keller Williams. They teach you how to be a business owner, whereas the other brokerage I was at, they didn't teach you. They taught you to stay in the rat race of just competing with the agents that they had that they had at the brokerage. So um, just remember, focus on your 20% and everything else will take care of itself. So
Did you say they're taught to each other?
that's correct. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's exactly right. So I came. So that's kind of. I'm ADD, so I'm high D, high I. My S and my C are like way down here. So so kind of keep me on track from time to time. But actually, that's what this is for. It's going to keep me on track. So just want to share with you a little bit about my story. And so been in Keller Williams ever since 2015, and been in mastery coaching ever since 2016. If who knows what mastery coaching is? Anyone? Sarah? Okay. Sure. Sarah, you want to share what mastery coaching is?
Yeah, so master top agents who've been
Exactly right.
it's a partnership. So you are
I'm in coaching. I've had a MAPS coach now ever since 2016.
okay.
And if I remember talking, um, it's $1,000 a month commitment. And there's going to be a program called Bold that's going to come our way probably, I don't know, sometime soon. And the first bowl that I went to, people were talking about mastery coaching. What is that? And I found out it was $1,000 a month. And at that time, I mean, I couldn't pay attention, yet alone spend $1,000 a month for coaching. And so I made it. I'm seeing I mean, everybody that was talking about mastery coaching at Bold, they were people that I was looking up to. I mean, they had volume, they had production. I'm like, man, whatever that is, I want to do it. And so I made a goal of mine to get into mastery coaching. And so it took me a year later to actually get into mastery coaching and spend $1,000 a month. And even at that time, I really wasn't prepared to spend $1,000 a month. But if it did what I thought it would do, that was showing up through other agents, it would do it for me too. So I had kind of stepped out and had blind faith. And so I've been in mastery coaching ever since. And if the shift were to happen tomorrow, as I talked to Adam Grady, trust me, I talked to a lot of people before I spent $1,000. And Adam said, if the shift happened tomorrow, that would be the last thing that I would get rid of. And for an agent as Adam Grady telling me that, I was like, okay, if Adam thinks that much of it, okay, I'm going to dive in. I never told Adam that if he hears about it today. I mean, that was one of the reasons, one of the solidifying reasons why I went ahead and got into mastery. Um, but talking about, okay, so got in mastery coaching, and ever since then I've learned a lot. So last month, um, through the help of leverage, which I didn't know anything about before coming to Keller Williams, through the help of leverage, I was able to sell 54 houses last year. And a big part of it is because I leveraged out to the people that are around me. I've got a virtual assistant. Because with lead generation, the hardest part when I first came to Keller Williams, Chris Russell said you'll need to get here about 8:30 every morning. And at that time, I think I was getting to office around 9:30, and I just wasn't prepared to get to the office at 8:30 every day. Um, so so through where was I going with that? So my virtual assistant, she creates my call list for me. She tells me everybody that I need to call, because without assistance, as a high D personality, it's like rabbit, squirrel, anything shiny will distract me. So whenever I was having to do it myself, I would probably take an hour to hour and a half to try to figure out who I was going to call, and I only had 2 hours set aside to lead generate. So the last half hour, I'm thinking, man, I only have 30 minutes to call. Let me just move on to the next thing and just skip lead generation. I'll hit it hard tomorrow. Well, you get that syndrome, hit it hard tomorrow, and it never happens. And so, but that's the one thing that we have to have in business and in real estate. is leads. I mean, we're a lead business. If we don't have any, we don't have any leads, we don't have any business. So we don't have any business. We have no money. We have no money. We can't pay bills and any of that stuff. So make sure you focus on the lead generation portion. So I've got a virtual assistant. I've got a transaction coordinator. A transaction coordinator. She does once we have a home that goes under contract, she takes it from contract to close. So therefore, I'm not having to worry about dotting my I's, crossing my T's. It allows me to stay in my 20%, which is to lead generate, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and scripts and role play. Nowhere in my 20% does it talk about transaction and coordinating. I also have an in-office EA. Christina, she's the best thing I've been doing this. I've been in Keller Williams for 5 years, and she's the best executive assistant I've had. I mean, she takes things off my plate. As you get further in business, as you get things back on your plate from the people that are you're working with, it's time to replace me. It's somebody different. Christina takes things off my plate. And so through the help of Christian, my VA, through the help of Jill Corbin, my transaction coordinator, and through the help of Christina, my executive assistant, I'm able to stay in production with my 20%. And then with Katie, able to take showings that allows me to do the things that I need to do in order to stay high in my 20%. Whereas when I was at the other company, they never mentioned one thing about your 20% or anything like that. So if you take nothing else away from this class today, take away to be a high producing agent, do the things that you're great at. Lead generate, lead follow up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts and scripts and role play. Do that, class is over. But we're going to continue today. But that's a little bit about my story and how I got here. I put my glasses on. I remember a couple of years ago, I'm thinking, man, what's wrong with my eyes? And I'd always look at some people that were older than me thinking, man, I hope I never get to be one of those people. And now I got 10 pair everywhere. Wherever I go, I can find some glasses. So let's see here. So does anyone have any questions they would like to discuss before we get into today's material? Yes.
I'm sure you'll talk about it, but are you going to explain the difference?
Yeah, for sure. Write that down. So if we don't cover it by the time, I mean, I'll forget what the question was by the time we get to the end of the day. Any other questions? All right, cool. Who would like to share what they are grateful for so far in this learning journey being at KW? If nobody wants to speak up, I'll just pick on somebody. Yeah, for sure. Who would like to share what they are grateful for so far in their journey here at KW?
I'm grateful you put me on your team.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Katie. Thank you. No, it's fun. It's fun to be able to do what I do. They say that if you find something that you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. And every day I come to the office, not working, just doing what I love to do.
I've just been doing this for 2 months, but I've been coming since February, since I did my intention letter and started my classes in February, but it was so booked, it took a minute to get to the second class. But I haven't made any money yet, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying the people and how I feel and how much collaboration there is and how much fun we have, and we meet someone new every day in here, and especially during Ignite, we're all experiencing the same things. There's nothing that hasn't been experienced, so it's really shared.
That's
So if
awesome.
something crazy happens, yeah, I did it too. You know,
Absolutely.
we all don't know how to open the super lock the first time we do
Right.
it.
You had to click that little box underneath there.
I'm like dripping
Right,
with sweat the first
right.
time I did it because I have no idea what I'm doing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I'm so grateful for the people, because when someone says culture, this is culture. I've been in places that say culture but have no idea what it means.
Absolutely. I think I was in real estate 2 years before I used to take this is back in the day, we had another feature to open up our boxes instead of using our phone. And I would click, do whatever I had to do, and I would just press press the button for the lockbox to open. It just wasn't opening. I'm like, why is it not opening? And then someone said you have to push that little black box underneath there, and that turns the lockbox on. But I'd wait 5 minutes, 6 minutes for the lockbox to open. I'm thinking, what in the world is going on here? My mom has blonde hair, so I didn't catch on real quick. So I feel your pain.
I know, I just thought, that'll be fine. Oh my gosh. Lucky, I was actually showing for somebody else.
Right.
I have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And I covered like, ooh, there's something wrong with
That's
this.
that's how you got to play it off. Nice work. Oh, did you really? Oh,
See,
yeah.
even if you get it open, sometimes the lock turns a different way, so you're just
Always
sitting there like
answering his
this,
phone.
like you
To
have-
Abby. Aw, that turns it on. Mind blowing. LOL. You guys see what their chat is?
Pops up real fast.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So if you see something, go ahead and yeah, shout it out for me. Does anyone else have anything that they're grateful for so far in this learning journey?
I mean,
Nice.
and so it's.
Hmm?
Like, it's.
Right.
I think it's.
Before.
I've done it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Go for it. Oh, yeah. Pass the mic.
Okay, so I'm not really tech savvy, so.
It's all good. Neither am I.
Okay, I still haven't figured out how to print out the contract. And I already have buyers that need to sign one.
Nice.
So.
It's a good problem to have.
Really happy that Keller actually has. Actually joined,
Nice.
so that will help me out.
Tremendously.
And it's. And you're, what do I do now? You
That's
know?
right.
I mean, mine's more tech savvy.
That's fantastic.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not, because I'm personable, I talk to people. There you go.
What you gotta do.
Gas station, everything. I mean, gas station I go to all,
That's what you got to do.
so,
Invest in name tags.
yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many homes I've sold because of my name badge. Oh, you sell real estate? I do. How's the market? Which market are you speaking of? Are you looking at buying a home or selling a home? And, the conversation just kind of goes from there. So, my fiance, she gets annoyed with my name badge, but that's okay. It's just, if you love what you do, it just is what it is.
You wear it all the time.
I wear it all the time. Are you making a comment or statement that I do, or are you
I'm
asking?
I'm
Yeah, I
asking.
do. I wear it
Like
all
when
the
you're
time.
not at work, you still wear it.
Not when I'm not when I'm not at work. I don't, but I'm always passing business cards out. All right.
Mark, do you just when you meet somebody, do you just pass it out and talk to them first, or do you just say, "Hey, I'm in real estate"? Because I scared the crap out of this lady in the grocery store yesterday,
Did you?
and I was like,
Do you have a microphone?
"Yeah, oh no, I have one right here." And I was like, so I cut her off on accident.
Are you driving or walking?
I'm walking.
Okay.
With cart.
Okay.
And I cut her off on accident, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, I just cut you off." She's like, "Oh no, you're fine." I'm like, "I'm in real estate, by the way."
You know what? But she'll remember you.
Yeah. So
Yeah, she'll remember
she
you.
just looked at me. She's like, "Thanks."
There really is no way. There really is no right or wrong way to pass a card out. Just hand them a card. Hey, I'm a realtor. Do you happen to know anybody looking to buy or sell a home? Just randomly. That's all you got to do.
Okay.
So, what are you guys most excited about with being with Keller Williams? What are you guys most excited about? Okay, you're about to say something.
I don't know what I'm gonna say.
Oh, but you're gonna say something.
I'm excited to be have like a career, you know, for like the rest of my. Excited about that.
Awesome. Anyone else have anything they want to share about being most excited?
Yeah, I'm
Thank you
excited.
thank you for grabbing the mic, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm extremely excited. The energy that is here at Keller Williams is phenomenal. I was at another realtor or real estate company for a whole month and a half. It's not the same energy. You just can't match the energy here. It's great. Everyone I've talked to is willing to answer any questions you have, and the training they've got for you is just
Right.
phenomenal.
Appreciate that. Thank you. We had Nicole Rice comment, most excited about flexible work schedule and grow my business. And that's, I mean, if you have kids or anything like that, I mean, to have the flexibility in order to do that. But always remember this phrase, if you erase, you must replace. Because the flexibility can also be the downfall as well. We have too much flexibility and we have to be able to control our time. So be sure you grab a planner. Be sure you have a planner, and in your planner, plan your week and time block your week. So what I do every Sunday night, I go through and I plan my week so I know what I'm going to do. So every day I've got either lead generate, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and scripts and role play. So when I take an appointment, I'm on the phone, I can say, hey, I have an appointment today and I already have the time spots for me versus let me figure out, I got one. I got one here. So just be confident about when you have your times. All right. So today what we're going to focus on is how to cultivate your leads and seller opportunities. Here's a secret to being a successful real estate agent. There is no secret. Secret leaves clues, or success leaves clues, so we know exactly what successful agents do every day. Everyday agents do two types of activities. They grow their business and they run their business. So we have the goal of our time here is to model what successful agents do every day and show how they do it. And we have lead generate for buyers and sellers, make seller listing presentations, make buyer presentations, and preview real estate. So understanding the importance that their database and how to take advantage of their sphere of influence allows for them to launch into all the other grow and run business topics. Our goal today is to teach you the skills you'll need to go from having a contact in your sphere of influence to a set listing appointment. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to find seller leads, understand, let's see here more. Trying to figure out this Excel or the PowerPoint presentation here. Before we talk about finding seller leads, we need to remember to comply with the do not call registry. So we have subscribe to the registry. The registry is hosted on a dedicated website. Your market center should subscribe to the registry and provide you with login credentials. Note that it is a violation of federal law to make any telemarketing calls without access to the registry. How many of y'all have done cold calling yet? Okay, so it's important that when you do your cold calling that you check the no call list because you can be fined thousands of dollars by doing so. And there was a time where I was cold calling and just being transparent, it happened to be the listing had actually went live and I didn't realize that. I should have checked Flex MLS before I made the phone call. And I didn't, and the agent turned me in, and I had to go to court, and I got fined for it. So it went from a for sale by owner to a listing. So it was several thousands, that was several $1,000s. So take from experience, be sure you check the no call registry.
They give you their phone.
If they give you their phone number, that you can call them, that is correct. Okay. So check before you call, update your call list regularly. And that can be something that if you have somebody helping you, they can update that for you. But if not, take the time in order to do so. Honor customers' request. Never call a consumer if the consumer request to be placed on your personal Market Center do not call list. So if you're talking to somebody, let Rachel know or let Tim know that they do not want to be on the call list. Okay. So it shares here, explain that participants should only be calling their sphere of influence or referrals that they have permission to have a conversation with. So that's kind of to your point, make sure you have their phone number. All right. Question, what is your number one job as a real estate agent? Everybody say that.
Lead
Generate, awesome. Where else do you all feel as though you can find seller leads? Okay. Where else? Okay. How many of y'all have door knocked before? How many of y'all door knocked with success and gotten a buyer or a seller lead from it? Keep doing it because it'll happen. Yes, tell me your first name. Tammy. Okay, Tammy. Awesome.
So, yeah, so then.
That would be important to know.
And so he said, actually.
Nice. Absolutely. No. That was a great story. I mean, there are people that, that's how they get all their business is from knocking doors. Okay. You just turn really fast away from that door and you'll never have the door slammed in your face. What are some other ways to find seller leads you all feel in your opinions? Okay. Okay.
I feel like it's
Huh?
gonna, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some of them.
And you know, with Command, we put them in a drip campaign. We never know when they're going to buy something. The average buyer is going to buy and or sell a home every 5 to 7 years. Who's going to be the agent that's going to be top of mind awareness for them? Is it you that's going to continually drip on them? Or is it someone that's just going to be there at the right time? I know Kevin mentioned yesterday when I was here, he had somebody with broken English and called him a year later in Rivercut. There really isn't a cheap house in Rivercut. So we can always cash those checks. Those are nice. All right. What are some other ways that, give me a couple other ways that you all think we can find some seller leads? Absolutely. Okay. They used to hit really hard on that in bold, but they really haven't in a while. Okay.
And trying to figure out.
Right.
It's over.
You know, open houses, I used to always think was just for buyers. I mean, how many of you all ever thought open houses were just for buyers that are out there? Yeah, fine. That's exactly right, Nicole, right? And so whenever you're doing an open house, I mean, you know, there's Katie and I, we do a open house script. And do you recall what that script, how that script is when they first come to the house? Hi, are you guys out looking to buy a home today, or are you just a neighbor stopping by? Something along those lines. So therefore, when they come to the house, you can figure out if you need to tag them and follow them through the house and be there for them, or just let them do their own thing. But most importantly, when you do those open houses, I put out like 20 directionals. I took an open house class several years ago, and they said, put out as many open houses as you possibly can, minimum of 20. I'm thinking, how in the world do you put out 20 open houses, and why would you do 20? Why would you do 20 signs? Anyone have a good idea why you would do that many or more open house directionals? Okay, good.
Attention as much.
Okay, what else? Huh? Anyone, any other? So these are all great suggestions. Branding,
Well, that's what I was,
yeah,
yeah.
branding. I had one lady come to my open house. It was over off of Eastgate, and she said, "I saw all the open houses. I have a home that I'm going to be selling in the next 6 months, and I just got to see how you sell your houses." I mean, I was attracted. I was drawn to all the open house directions you had out there. If you do that for this house, you'll probably do it for my house, is what she's thinking. So that's a great way to draw business. I mean, to your open house. I mean, like if you have a house like on a major, like on off of a major road, um, take 10 directionals before you get to the turn into the subdivision, space them out maybe 6 or 7 feet apart, and walk them up. So therefore, they're seeing the open house direction before they get to the street, and they were the street to turn. Therefore, they have time to actually turn. Don't just stack them up right there in the corner, because by the time they see it, it's too late. And then do the other directionals coming from the opposite direction. And it takes a little organization in order to do so. But Chris Suarez, very successful agent through Keller Williams, he held a MAPS class called "Open the House and Close the Deal," and so that was one of the things that I learned from him. And so I think I've got like 75 directionals for open houses that I've had made for that particular reason. All right, anything else? Anyone have any questions so far? Okay, cool. Now, in my notepad here, or in my notes, it says students can refer to Open House Job Aid in their toolkit to hold an open house. What is your toolkit that you guys have? Okay. Okay. I gotcha. How many of y'all have used that toolkit so far? You like it, Sarah?
I like it.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
it's really handy to have.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so we're going to switch gears and learn about what comes after generating leads, which is connecting, pre-qualifying, and converting your seller leads into listing appointments. So it says, explain that if one of your leads tells you that they are interested in selling their home, first you need to connect them. You need to connect with them so that you'll be their real estate agent of choice. Um, then understand how ready they are so that you can categorize them to see how soon they're thinking of selling. Once you think someone is willing to sell, you need to pre-qualify them to see if they are able and ready to do business. Finally, if they're ready and able, you'll need to do a listing presentation and secure the listing. Each step is important so that you follow up with leads that aren't yet able, ready, and willing. Then you can put the majority of your effort into winning the listing with those that can do business. Connecting questions. Um, Connecting is an important part of prospecting, which we covered in the lead generation module of this course. People want to do business with people that they see as motivated, capable, and likable. Focus on connecting with the seller so that you can gain, build rapport, and also find out how willing and ready the seller is. What are the life events motivating them to think about selling? What needs or wants are they looking to fulfill with a move? Fully understand the seller's motivation and how strong that motivation is helps move you toward your ultimate goal, a transaction. So a question, how do you think these questions help you build rapport? That it says, how do you think these questions help you build rapport and trust with the lead? Okay.
All the information.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
So what I
Anyone else? You know, back from my day of selling vacuum cleaners, I did a lot of training. One thing that I learned, I believe, is either from Zig Ziglar or Brian Tracy. They said God gives us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should use them in direct proportion to that. So we need to listen twice as much as we speak. People don't care about our 2 cents worth. It's not about us, it's about them. So ask those digging questions. If a person tells you something, what's important to you about that? Tell me more. Tell me more. Why is that? Um, get them talking, because the more they talk, the more they're going to tell you how to sell them and what's important to them. So always be listening to what it is that they say. Don't be in such a hurry to give your 2 cents worth, whatever that may be. Because we as salespeople think we know everything anyway. But there's a time to share that, and just don't spew it all out all of the time. There's a great time to let it go. Okay, what are some other examples of other connecting questions you can ask? Use questions that help you determine who, what, where, why, when, and how. So question, what are some other examples of other connecting questions that we can ask? Who's got some questions? You have your arm raised, Tammy?
Oh, no.
Okay. So what are some examples of connecting questions that we can ask? I don't think. I mean, let's
So I think that like.
okay. And how else could we dig deeper with that?
Yeah.
What else could we say? Uh-huh. Absolutely. That's right.
Then I'm gonna add to that,
Go for it.
favorite thing about the house.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love that. Absolutely. That's right.
Things like that, then we can.
Absolutely. And get people talking about their kids. I mean, that's the best way to get them to open up to you is to talk about their kids, because all parents love to talk about their kids. Right, Savannah? And yours is how old? 2. Yeah.
And yours is
I know, no, because I saw Savannah's face light up when we said we like to talk about kids. I mean, yeah, 23, 19, and then Josiah's 7. Or no, Josiah's 8. Yeah. What's that? I know. These,
You're not there yet. We'll enjoy the.
all right, so let's go to the next one. Seller lead categories. So question, why is it important for you to know how ready your potential seller is? So question, why is it important for you to know how ready your potential seller is? What are some answers?
So
Exactly right. And there's no sense in putting them in your car to show them a house, because in this market in 6 months from now, it's not even going to be there. So it's a waste of your time. Okay. And what? And their time, absolutely. So what are some other examples? So why is it important for you to know how ready your potential sellers? What are some other ideas? That's right.
That would be totally.
Absolutely. So true. And most pre-qualification letters are good for 90 to 120 days. If it's any longer, you'll want to well, if I'm working with a buyer and I just met them, I want to get them pre-qual. They may not want to buy for another year out, but I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get them to get pre-qualified ASAP. And the reason I want to get them pre-qualified ASAP is I don't want them waiting until 10 months down the road and then them find out they have a tax lien or some judgment on there that they didn't know, because now instead of buying in a year from now, we're probably 16 or 18 months out by the time they get those other things cleared up. And so, and then by getting them pre-qualified early, you can just let them know we can always get this updated down the road. Just make sure not to make any major purchases, and it's just a simple phone call to the lender, and they'll give you an update. What are some other reasons? So why is it important for you to know how ready your potential seller is?
Um,
That's right.
You gotta make sure that you. Dictate your action plan.
That's right.
How you're going to approach.
There's a document, get with maybe Kerry Wersch or maybe Austin Stiles, a couple of the buyer's agents that have been around for a long time. I know there's many other buyer agents that are out there, but there is there's something that we have. It's called A buyer, B buyer, and C buyer. And then it's an agreement that you can have them sign when you go through the consultation with them. And the A buyers are, those are the people that are ready to buy right now, and they want to have the information sent to them ASAP. The B buyers are the ones that are like 90 days out, maybe up to 6 months out. And those are the people that are not priority, but we're going to have them on our mailing, on our drip campaigns. And so they're not as urgent. And then you have your C buyers, which are like a year out, and but we want them to identify where they are, and they're going to sign this form so that we can match their motivation, because the last thing we want to do is to come across as wanting them to buy the house and they want them worse and they want to have it. So they identified their motivation level, and then that tells us how to follow up with them over the next week, 2 months, whatever it may be. Are you familiar with that document? Have you seen it before?
I've seen it, I think you would get.
Okay. Okay. And I would highly recommend getting familiar with that A, B, or C buyer. It'll save you a ton of time. In my notes, it says the difference between A, B, and C leads based on the list on the slide. All right, explain. Explain that categorizing your leads helps you know how often to follow up with the lead and how close you are to getting the listing. Sellers that are currently ready should and will take more of your time and effort, but it's important to follow up appropriately with B and C sellers as well to establish a listing pipeline. So question, if a lead gets scored as a C on the scale, how can you ensure that you keep in touch with them? Okay. What else? I got a great suggestion right here. I'll tell you guys if you guys can't think of it. Drip campaigns, what are you gonna say, Sarah? Good. Absolutely, for sure. And it talks about create a neighborhood landing page for that lead. If you don't know how to do it, ask Dan Turkel. He's great at teaching people how to do that stuff. Or either have somebody in your office that knows how to do it. Is Tish good at that? Oh, she hasn't. Okay. 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 So move on to the next one. All right. So this one is role model qualifying a seller for participants. So it says, now that we've shown you how to qualify your seller leads, let's practice with a partner. Have participants get into groups of 2 to 3 using the exercises in the participant guide on page 6. So you guys got your participant guide, page 6? Have them role play with each other to determine whether their role play partner is an A, B, or C in terms of readiness to sell their home. Remind participants to use the sample connecting questions on page 5 of the participant guide. So let's pair up into twos and we'll go through the role playing. We have, how do we want to, Sarah, who do you want to role play with? Darn it. Okay, that sounds good. Tim, you are with? Tammy, okay? Your first name is? No, and Shane, Candy and Shane? Taylor, Katie, and Christian. You guys pair up. We'll do 5 minutes of role playing on that. Once everyone has went through it one time, let me know. Has everybody went through it one time? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, okay, all right. Thanks. All right. Hello. Hi. Thanks for participating and going through that. Just remember, the more you do it, the more comfortable that you get at it. And when you have an opportunity to do bold, be sure and do it, because you're going to get really good at scripting and role playing. It'll be fantastic. So we're going to move on to convert leads to contacts. So from my notes, it reads, finding your lead's motivation is the first step in turning a warm lead into a closed client. When you are completing your daily lead generating activities, your goal is to convert those leads to appointments. You might get an appointment from the person you called, but if not, you might get a referral from someone that is thinking of buying or selling. Creating a reciprocal relationship is how you turn a lead into a contact, someone that you have permission to follow up with for a lead. That means asking how you can connect and meet with them. For a referral, this means asking how they can connect you with people they know that might meet with you. When you've determined the seller is motivated and willing to sell, ask for an appointment using 2 steps. Ask for the business. When will you be ready to sell? Ask for the appointment. Will tomorrow at 3 or Friday at 1 work for you to discuss selling your home? So I know whenever I set an appointment, kind of like I shared with you guys earlier, I have my day planned out. I know what I have every day. So when I'm going through the appointment, I'm looking already on my calendar to see what I have open. And I'm going to give them 2 options. Oftentimes I'll ask, do you guys work during the day or during the evening? What's your availability? Once I find out that they work during the day, I'm going to say, well, I have an appointment open this evening at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, or I can do tomorrow at 4:30 or 6. I'm not going to, which this is pretty much common sense. I want to find out when they work, because I don't want to get them to say I can't do it then. I'm gonna already find out that they work during the day, so all my appointments are gonna be in the evening, and I'm gonna act like I may be booked up even though I'm not. Any questions on that? Is okay. I don't want to assume that you guys all know that because some of you may not. What are other questions you can think of that fit the who, what, where, why, when, and how line of questioning? Let me read that again. What other questions can you think of that fit the who, what, where, why, when, and how line of questioning? And it says you guys can refer to page 7 of the participant guide. Good. Love that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Yes, Taylor.
Well, I just have a question
Go for it.
for the people.
Okay. It's difficult to know how to tell you to follow up without knowing the previous conversations that you've had. At that point, when they tell you that they will follow up with you, all you can do is you can say, maybe you could say, obviously before she said, I'll follow up with you. Would it be okay if I checked back in with you uh, tomorrow or the next day, whatever that day may be? So that my motivation matches your motivation. When would a good time be that I could follow back up with you? Would tomorrow be okay that if I checked in with you? I always try to use that line so that my motivation matches yours. Because once again, we don't want to seem as though we want to sell the house worse than they want to sell it. What else? It says, what other questions can you think of that fit the who, what, where, why, when, and how line of questioning? Word leads to contacts. I guess, yeah, it could pertain to either. Absolutely. We can move on.
I'm trying to. Where are we in the conversation? Or are we just talking to our lead?
Oh, that's okay.
Where we are like in the.
Word leads to no, share with me your thought.
Well, I just didn't know where we were.
Find, okay, so find the motivation.
Yeah.
Okay, why is it important to you to sell your home?
Yeah.
What is that, how is that going, how's that going to help accomplish your goal of moving to wherever it is that you're going? No, you're good. No, these are all good things. I mean, it's a process of becoming really good at working with sellers and working with buyers. Thank you for sharing. Now that we've covered how we will find and convert our seller leads, let's move on to how to pre-qualify them. Once you know the seller is willing to sell and has agreed to have an appointment with you, you should pre-qualify them to see if they're also able and ready to do business. To make the best use of your time, you must be willing to pre-qualify sellers rather than expecting that each seller lead will become an appointment. Explain that the benefits listed on the slide Explain the benefits listed on the slide to help participants understand the value of pre-qualifying the seller. So we'll walk through this. So understand the seller's motivation. Position yourself as an expert. Now, how do you think we can position ourselves as an expert when we're talking to our client? What can we share with them? What are some resources that we have? Okay. Okay. Perfect. No, that's fantastic because most people that are looking to buy a home, they may not have a lender. And the worst thing that you can do is pass along a lender that drops the ball. I remember being a brand new agent, and as soon as I became a new agent, I had friends coming out of the woodwork saying that they were a lender and they wanted to work with my clients. And me being naive, I passed some of those people on to those lenders. And as soon as the lender could not get them pre-qualified, they dropped the ball, didn't tell my client that they couldn't get them financed, and they didn't call me to let me know that they weren't able to get financed. And being that I didn't have a CRM at that time, I used a calendar in my email to follow up. And me being a high D and a high I didn't have the detail of making those notes, and they just fell by the wayside. And 6 months later, when I would run into the person, I felt like crap because I never followed up with them, and the lender never called to tell me that they couldn't get pre-qualified, and so on and so forth. So it's important that you meet some lenders, have them take you to lunch, and develop a relationship with these lenders that you're working with. Okay, it's a small things. What are some other ways that we can show that we are the expert? Yes.
Yeah, you can, write for the MLS.
Right. Perfect. When I close my eyes, I'm not going to sleep and you guys aren't boring me. I'm trying to visualize what you're saying. So don't. Did you have something to say? Okay. So another way that you can come across as an expert is what we have called broker metrics. Be sure to get a hold of Rachel Lusk, and she'll add you to the list, because it's important that when you're going through the listing consultation and the buyer consultation, you know what the market is doing. The broker metrics come from Greene County, Christian County, Webster County, and I believe there are some other counties, but the most important counties that we have on there are the three that I mentioned. The broker metrics are going to tell us the average sales price to list price ratio, average sales price to list price ratio, average sales price to original price ratio. It's going to tell you the average days on market. It's going to tell you the MSI, which is month supply of inventory. It's going to tell you the median supply, the median sales price. It's also going to tell you the average price and how much they've gone up over the years. So whenever when you have when you have a seller that wants to list their property $20,000 over where you say it should be, you show them the average sales price, the original price. The average sales price is right now is 100.6%. When you do one price reduction, and then you look at the sales price to original price ratio, and you look at 90 days down the road, instead of them netting 100.6% on the average, now they're netting 88 point whatever it is. The reason for it is there's sellers, because they know the market is hot right now, they're trying to take advantage of the buyers that are out there, and they're artificially inflating the price. And buyers in the marketplace haven't just jumped in the market today to buy a home. The National Association of Realtors tells us that the average buyer is in the market 12 to 18 months before they decide to purchase a home. So by osmosis, they know if a home is priced correctly or if it's not priced correctly. And if the home is priced correctly, you're going to have a bunch of people to that house. If the house is not priced correctly, the house is going to sit. And if that house sits, buyers that are looking at that home 2 and 3 weeks down the way, if they see it's still there, they're going to wonder what. And buyers are experts, so they think something's wrong with it. I mean, something's wrong with the roof, something's wrong with it, where it was just priced inaccurately to begin with. Now we spend our time chasing the market down as a listing agent and as a seller, and the only way to chase the market down and catch it is by what? Price reduction. So if we would just price the house correctly from the very beginning, we would be able to get multiple offers, especially in this market, and be able to get our sellers $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over list price. So by knowing your broker metrics and how many days in the market, the average sales price list price ratio is going to set you apart from every other agent that's out there. That was one thing that I automatically signed up for from our previous MCA, was the broker metrics. I didn't know what they looked like. I didn't know anything about them, but every month I got them and I figured out what they meant. And you will come across as the professional when you're working with both buyer and seller. How do you think knowing those statistics can help you with a buyer? That's exactly right. So when you tell your buyers, if you know the average sales price of a home these days is 100.6, and you have $100,000 house for even numbers, and they want to offer $80,000, how do you think that's going to help position you as an agent with them? Absolutely.
It's not the time.
It's not.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can show you.
Absolutely. So Rachel's probably going to hate me because she's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you already, okay. Because she's going to have a bunch of other emails, but seriously, get on that list. It will arm you to be a professional, to be an expert in what we do. All right. So, allow you to price the home to sell for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Somebody take the last one, so I'm not reading everything. Tell me more about that. Why is that important? Anybody? Right.
You set the expectation.
exactly right. I don't want to say the number one complaint that sellers have. I will say probably in the top 10 of complaints is lack of communication. Not following up with them and giving them the information. We know it, we see it every day, but they don't see it. So make sure you communicate with them on a daily basis. What's that? Oh,
Brian gave us a quote the other.
right. And you know, a good way to set that up with your seller is while you're there at the appointment, ask them how often would they like for you to stay in contact with them. Let it come from them. If they say once a month, perfect. Communicate with them once a month. Put in your calendar, put in your CRM, put it somewhere as a task to follow back up with them. If they say once a week, let it be once a week. But ask them how they want you to communicate with them, and also ask them what is their preferred method of communication. Is it phone call? Is it text? Is it email? For me, it's phone call. What is it for you, Sarah?
I prefer,
Okay. Okay. What about for you,
I like, if it's something that I'm communicating.
Taylor?
Phone call.
Katie? Okay. I would say all the older people in class, they want a phone call. It's you young kids that don't want a text message.
But I would say, yeah, you said,
Oh,
but I
okay.
would probably tailor it to them.
Right,
Because a lot of, I mean, we are.
right. Right.
Because we've just been talking through basic messenger.
For me, I'm working with a buyer now that he messaged me on Facebook. I don't know how to act. I'm from the old school. I want a phone number or something so I can call. But I mean, you know, it's just what they're comfortable with.
You can't call
Sure. Okay.
conversation.
Katie,
I don't know, man.
I got one last night too.
Okay.
I had a show.
Yeah. Nice.
Facebook is a.
It is. I remember when Facebook first came out, and I had a friend, and I was like, "What's this Facebook thing?" Because I didn't know if I needed to join it or not. So
I already did MySpace.
I know, I know, right?
I never even did
Aging
MySpace.
yourself.
I was transitioning from MySpace. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
See, I'm
Facebook.
older than MySpace, so I didn't even do MySpace.
Okay.
I'm older than.
All right. So all right, we're moving on. It isn't an okay. So what we're going to do now, we're going to practice using the pre-listing questionnaire. This questionnaire will help you determine how quickly you may be able to get into business with a lead. You'll notice that the questionnaire uses many who, what, where, when, and why questions to facilitate the process. So let's take 10 minutes and we're going to role play this pre-qualification of a seller. Yeah, does everybody know where to find it in your Ignite toolkit? Find it, Katie? Okay. What page is it on? What page is it?
Oh, pre-listing.
Okay. All right. So pair up who you were with before and we'll go through that. We'll do 10 minutes. We'll do 10 minutes for that. Guess we're Kevin Adams. Go for it. Uh-huh. I got one so far, I think. Well, they're pretty flexible because they're actually not living there. They have another house. The one that I saw, it is. Sure, I get it. No, yeah, no problem. Yeah, let me. You're ready? Okay. Everyone, can we get started? Because we need to get on through this. Is everybody, can we go ahead and get started? Because we're on a time constraint here. We've kind of. All right, so we're going to move on to, let's see, the listing presentation. All right, so now we'll log into Command to view the listing presentation in Designs. Does everyone have their computer to log into? No worries. So an effective pre-packet positions you as their real estate expert of choice, the best person to get their home sold for the right price in the least amount of time and with the least hassle. The packet plays two critical roles. One, pre-selling. The pre-listing materials are specifically designed to build sellers' confidence in you and to answer their questions and objections in advance of your presentation. Strong pre-listing packet will make the consultation experience smoother and probably shorter than it otherwise would have been. So also, okay, so with that, how many, obviously probably no one here has a pre-listing packet. But does everyone understand why it would make the present or make the process shorter and smoother? Yeah. Give me some thoughts on that, on the pre-listing packet. What are some thoughts on that and how you think it would benefit you? Right,
I realize that.
absolutely.
What do you think?
Yeah, it brings them back down to reality. And in the pre-listing packet, you put a lot of, you can put your testimonies that you have from other clients in there, and it just, it allows them to view you as a real person. And if you have a lot of testimonies in there, they'll say, oh, okay, this person is really nice, or they can do a really good job. So if you don't have a pre-listing or a pre-buyer pack presentation, be sure and get one. Okay. Okay. Sarah used to be the tech ambassador here, so everybody knows that probably already.
Not everybody.
Oh, okay.
New people don't know that. 'Cause
Okay.
We've been doing it,
Okay.
and Dan Hill,
Okay.
which is great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love it.
So it says, notice that this is the listing presentation. What we're going to do here is review the presentation and modify it to keep the pages and sections that help you accomplish the task of building the seller's confidence in you and make eventual listing presentation easier and smoother by preparing them for what to come. So in your free time, go through that. There's nothing worse than trying to figure this out the night before your listing appointment. Take some time, figure it out, play around with it, get it really good, because when you get to the appointment, I mean, you never get a second chance to make a great first impression. And so always do that. Kind of the way I feel about real estate and dress. I remember I was working together a company, and somebody walked into the office and they were wanting to look at a property. It's like over 500,000. And I was the floor agent. I had jeans on and a t-shirt. Guy didn't use me. And I look back on it and say, and feel the way you look. Does that come across? Okay. So if you're dressed, I mean, you have to come to work every day dressed like you're going to sell $1 million property. And because you're going to come across as being confident. So be sure and always know and always be prepared for that buyer or seller that comes in. Because if you get that seller that comes in, you're in shorts and flip-flops. I mean, how confident are you going to feel at using somebody like that to sell your $1 million property or $500,000 property? I know, I saw you yesterday. You dressed down today.
I did.
No, it's all good. But you still look good. I mean, there's days where I have jeans and shirts on, jeans and one of my market sold t-shirts on, but 95% of the time it's just me. So whatever works for you, just do you. But that's just a tip that I have. Are you like 20, you said? Okay.
Makeup for
I bet, oh, right.
like it's horrible.
All right, so practice the listing presentation. I don't think we have time to go through and practice the listing presentation. Says now we'll take a few minutes to practice creating and customizing a listing presentation. We're not going to do that because we don't have a computer. So let's move on to the next. The goal of our time together is to help you think, feel, act, and use what you've learned to ignite your passion and help you achieve your big why. Refer participants, or it says refer participants to the AHAs to the achievement, the PG. Does everyone know what the PG is? Thank you, sir. Okay.
I love that. I'm going to use that.
Gotta have them out there. Did you really? Yeah, ask for permission. Yeah, any other ahas? Cool. Okay. I've been doing this a little longer. So I send out a pre-listing packet. In my pre-listing packet, I think it's about 20 pages. So I send that out, and then I've pretty much memorized a listing presentation that I go through. So it really isn't a listing presentation that I'm going through. My presentation's pretty much in the pre-list packet that's sent there. So that when I actually get to the home, I'm going over the comparables, letting them know we're entering a competition, and I want you to help me through me sharing these comparables with you to determine a price for your home. And I just kind of give them the comparables, and then they choose, is it comparable? Is it inferior or is it superior? By the time we get to the end of the presentation, the price will come from them and not me. I used to always determine the price of the property, but when I was wrong, it was always hard to go back and get them to change it because I'm the professional. So I lead them through the presentation to have them tell me what they feel the price is. Then I give them a range. I don't know if that makes sense or not. All right. So what we got next? Part of it too? Oh,
That's an everyday thing.
oh, is it? Okay, cool. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Yay.
We all made it. There's still 5 people online. Does anybody online have any questions?
Thank you, Sarah. Does anybody online have any questions? All right, so off script, what do you guys want to know? What do you guys want to know? Who's having problems or who's having challenges? Who's having difficulties with whatever? Go for it.
So for those,
How do you price luxury homes? Is it in a subdivision or is it not in a subdivision? Okay, so if it's not in a subdivision, you want to do probably, so when I do that, um, when I worked at the Blue Company, the agent I worked for was a Fannie Mae vendor. And so I got really good at BPOs and what BPO stands for, just a fancy word for appraisal. It's called a broker price of opinion. So I had to get 3 active properties and 3 sold properties to submit to Fannie Mae for them to determine if they were going to put money into the property to remodel it or they were going to sell it as is. And so when I would do a rural property, I would do plus or minus 20% of the plus or minus 20% of the square footage. I would do plus or minus 10 years of the subject property. I would do number of bedrooms, number of baths, and I would also look for similar acreage. And I would start with a 3-mile radius. Based on that, then you can determine your high and you can determine your low. You're in a subdivision, it's much simpler because appraisers look for sold properties within that subdivision. So you can just type in the subdivision and then just well, they may do a radius if they cannot find 3 sold comps in that subdivision. Then they will go outside of that subdivision and try to look for similar build, similar age of construction. Find that in order to find that property.
And how does that work?
Right, so that's when so when I do my listing presentation, I will go in, I'll take my laptop with me and I will look up and I'll have my comparables of my solds and I'll have all my solds because an active listing is not a comparable. You can't use that. So I'll find all my solds. I'll email those to myself. I'll also print off agent detail copies. I'll have those stapled together. I'll also print off customer copies and I'll have those paper clipped together, or I have those paper clipped per property. And then I will go through my comparables and I'll have them read the details. I'll have them read the marketing remarks for each property. I'll have them read it out loud. And then I'll pull up the comparable on my computer and I'll have them touch a screen to go through. And I tell them, I want you guys to go through that. I want you to touch through and look at these pictures because at the end, I want you to tell me, do you feel as though the property is comparable? Do you feel as though it's an inferior or do you feel as though it's superior? And then they'll go through it and then I'm going to make a note. Do they feel whatever it is? And it's superior, inferior, or comparable to their property. So by them going through it and seeing that this house has been updated, whereas theirs hasn't, they're going to say it's superior. So therefore, we have a benchmark on whatever that price range may be. And I'll go through the 3 to 4 comparables that I can find, and I'll have a high range and I'll have a low range. And I'll tell them, this is a range where our property needs to be. So therefore, the price is coming from them. Versus, I used to go into a house and have the value already set up. And there are some agents that do a one-step process, and there are some agents that do a 2-step process. A 2-step process. Do you guys know what a 1-step process and 2-step process are? Okay, so a 1-step process is you talk to them on the phone, you do the pre-qualification, you do the pre-qualifying questions, you ask them to tell you about their home. I mean, if you were a buyer looking at your home on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your property? And they tell you a 6 or a 7. Well, what would you need to do to your property to make it a 10? And they tell you. So when they tell you what needs to be done to their property to make it a 10, they're telling themselves subconsciously that my house isn't as worth as much money as I think it is. So I'll ask them those and, yeah, I mean, there's a few other questions I can't think, I don't have it in front of me. Where was I going with that? I kind of lost track.
Like what's pre-
Uh-huh.
totally redone.
Okay,
Julie's got the best house on the block.
Yeah.
never good to have the best
I
house on the
know.
block. So, yeah, and you know, and you may, and if you can't find any other properties that have been remodeled, maybe do a radius search. You know how to do a radius search on Flex where you can have a circle and you can expand it and it'll do a circle, or you can do a rectangle or whatever. Just find some other, maybe find some other properties that are similar close by.
Mile to 2
That should be
miles.
plenty, yeah.
That's half the city.
It is half the city. So yeah, then I'll just have, so I will, they'll be reading the client detail, and then on my agent, I'll let them know that this property sold in 2 days. They paid $4,500 of concessions, and I'll explain to them what the concessions are. And because sometimes sellers don't know what concessions are, and a lot of times sellers think that the buyers always pay their closing costs, whereas it's really determined by the lender if the seller is to pay the closing cost. And talked to a lender one time, and they say normally if the lender asks for the buyer to pay if a lender asks for the seller to pay the closing cost, it's because they need it. And it's really a non-negotiable. It has to take place. And so I'll let them know right then and there. We may get some offers where we have to pay the closing cost, and you have to pay the closing cost. It could be. Yeah, if the lender determines that they don't have enough money, or it's gonna mess up their DTI, which stands for debt to income ratio, then yeah, they'll write that in there. They, being the buyer's agent, will write that in the offer that the seller needs to pay the closing cost. This is fun. I love answering these questions. Not on script. Okay.
You can explain.
Ken.
You can say.
You are welcome, Amanda Robinson. Other questions? What I want to, that's a smaller percentage of the sellers that I've worked with, and I think it's a smaller percentage of smaller percentage of sellers that, because anyone has, just because it's not that big of a pool. But yeah, I have heard of sellers getting an appraisal. If they're not getting an appraisal for the listing, they've had an appraisal over the last several years, and then that will help you determine the value. Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes they have them with a refi.
correct.
4 or 5 years. Rarely do I find this summer.
Right.
And
Right.
appraisal may or may not have.
And all appraisals are subjective to the appraiser that goes out there, just like a home inspector. You'll have one home inspector go out there, find a laundry list of things. You'll have another home inspector go out there, may not find anything that was on their other inspector's list. a number of different ways. Normally, I'll have Krisha, my virtual assistant, put them on a drip campaign. And then find out what their find out what their motivation is. When to, is it okay if I follow up with you? Do I have permission to follow up with you a week from now? Always get their permission to follow up with them, because they'll always take your call, usually. But if you don't ask for permission, then they may not. There's a lot of different scripts on that, and there's a ton to find. And so usually most open houses that I'll hold, I'll ask, as Katie, we have a survey that we have them fill out, and then we'll ask, ask them for the feedback on while they're there, and then I'll flip it over and say, hey, by the way, what is it that you guys are looking for? Tell me some of the must-haves that you need in a home and that you're wanting in a home. So I'm developing a rapport with them while they're in the open house, and then I'm going to follow up with you. When I get to the office, I'm going to send you guys some houses to look at. Is it okay if I follow up with you when I send those out to you? And then that's kind of where it belongs, or where it starts. And then also sending out those postcards. On that form, on that survey, there's a place to ask for their mailing address. What's a good mailing address for you? I'm not asking where you live at, because if you ask where they live at, that might be a little creepy. But if you ask, what's a good mailing address for you, it's a whole different way to ask for it. And most people will answer, oh, this, and this, or whatever it might be. Send them a postcard. Cement the relationship with them by sending them a handwritten card. But I mean, what is it, daily 10-4? How does that work, Sarah? Right. So just very rarely do people take the time to do a handwritten card. And so when you get a handwritten card in the mail, what are your thoughts and what are your feelings on that? You really? Okay. Well, and yeah, you might have a gift card or something in there.
That sucks.
So,
No, I don't even, like, my.
okay.
You know, For every 10 leads that you have, actually 12 leads that you have, one will convert, a buyer or a seller. And then the other 11 that didn't convert, immediately they will convert at some point in the future. So it's important to put as many people in your database as you possibly can. What else? I'm always here to answer any questions that you guys may have. I'm in the second story, northwest corner. I have a real good view. And if you guys, are looking for a way to hold yourself accountable, hire a virtual assistant, because they will hold your feet to the fire. It's the one closing, portion of a closing pays for it. It's $1,500 a month. And they'll do whatever it is that you need them to do. Trish has been with me now for 2 years. Accountability. Just to have the people, just to have a list of people to call on a daily basis, where I'm not taking an hour and a half or 2 or 3 hours to find and then say I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes around and then we find something else to do, because we as agents, we love people, but we hate rejection. So we run from rejection. We'll find, as Jeff Woods says, every time you say yes to somebody else,
you're saying no to yourself. So anytime you have, someone comes along and say, hey, can you help me? Yes, you're saying no to yourself as far as what your 20% is. And schedule time. I mean,
Right.
yeah, just, I mean, schedule time. Yeah, it's not meant to feel bad, but just schedule time. If someone says, I can't do it right now, we'll just come back and
Yeah.
do it another time. But as new agents, the most important thing is lead generation. Keep, what is it? Keep the most important thing, keep the main thing, the main thing. That's what it is. Keep the main thing, the main thing. The main thing is lead generate. Okay, so what she does, I gave her, when she first started with me, I gave her everybody in my database. And she just went through and organized it.
Okay.
And everybody on Trip Campaign, she just
Oh, so when it's,
got me ready.
okay.
Yeah, I hate that stuff. I hate
Maybe you need an assistant.
No, that's part of lead gen.
Okay, so that is.
You have lead generate, lead follow-up. So your lead follow-up comes at the end of your lead generation following up.
Okay.
How big? I don't know how big I want my team to be. I wa- I wa- my goal is to be in the top three agents on our board. Whatever that looks like. Adam Grady, you have Dan Holt. I think Patrick Murney is it. Taylor Cantrell's fourth or fifth or somewhere along. Huh?
She's near the top.
Evan, I mean, is, yeah.
I didn't know that, Joy.
Yeah, good, yeah. Every time I have an opportunity to listen to Evan do a class, he doesn't get any better than. Right. I didn't know that.
So
Yeah.
now I'm like,
Right,
how much him and Austin.
absolutely. Evan used to be a team leader. They're good dudes. Guess we're finished. If no one else has anything.
There's a Pineapple Whip upstairs.
Bye. Bye. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you guys and I appreciate you coming. And like I said, I'm off script. So if I don't have to follow a script, I got my own script to follow. So just let me know. While you were away, you probably had plenty of time to think about if you were to do this or if you were to do that, or if only you had done this or if you had only done that. Right. 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 Okay. Nice. Okay.
So they're buyers who don't have.
Okay.
So they're looking.
Right.
They have your picture.
They'll buy once we find.
Okay.
Is that your height? Is
And
that
I
your
just
height?
feel they can be all
Like that?
Right. They're not serious yet. I mean, they're okay. Right. Okay. That makes it hard on you or as us as agents when there isn't the motivation.
The new ones.
Okay. Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Flex search. Okay. Mhm. Right. That's a rarity.
It is a rare.
Okay.
So even though they're.
I gotcha.
I don't.
Right. They don't want that. Yeah. That's it. That's that unicorn, like you said.
So, you know, I got a couple of those. And
Sure.
I don't know. Somebody else. And I also don't feel comfortable telling them, yes, you should offer this much.
Right.
Right, so like, would you be?
They would say no.
And they're like.
Yeah, so why are we wasting our time on, if that's how you feel? No, but I mean, that's kind of what you might feel. Why are we wasting our time on someone, hey, how are you?
Well, so, you know, I'll write the offer. I'll write. I want to call my buddy, in the other bedroom, have any windows.
That's a shack.